everyone, this is Jade Bolden, and today I have a special guest, and this is my friend Thuy. She's Vietnamese as well. We were introduced to each other through mutual friends, and she has a fantastic story about her escape from Vietnam as well. So today, what we're going to do is interview her and sort of talk about our experience. So hopefully this becomes a 6-part series or something where we overview our journey and talk about our refugee experiences and talk about how we settled into our countries, and then just share with you a bit of our history so we can share part of our lives with you and hopefully bless your life and maybe our kids' lives too. So that's the objective of what we're doing today. Alrighty, so Thuy. So guys, I have a book that I've written about my story, but Thuy, she has a fantastic journey as well. So we're going to talk about her journey. So how old were you when you first left Vietnam?
I left Vietnam, I was 20 years old.
She was 20. I was 2 when I left. So you see there's a lot of differences that we have, right? And how did you leave?
Yeah.
How did you leave?
Yeah. I left Vietnam actually with my youngest brother too, so just
the two
of us.
Yeah, on a boat?
Yeah, on the boat,
yep.
Yes, and he was 12, I was 20, just only 2 of us.
Yep, so you paid a fare?
Yes,
yep.
We paid fare, and we trying to meet up and trying to escape Vietnam, and our boat, they planned about 35 people. We end up like 70 people after we got, rescued. Yes. Or else we wouldn't have known like how many people on our boat.
Yeah, so it just felt like there was a lot of people. They were hoping for 30 and thinking about 30 and planning for that.
Yes.
But then a lot of people ended up coming on.
People they don't have money, but they know that we trying to escape, so they just jumping on the boat,
And so you escaped at night time and took off. Yeah.
Yes, and
So
and we were underwater like 5 days.
Yep, until you got rescued, huh?
Yes.
So for us, my family, there were about 20-something people on our boats, and it was a teeny tiny. She said, of all boats, it's one of the smallest boats. So they were really, really poor. We had to escape at night time too, and this family was just a family boat, so they didn't take any fares or any new people.
Yeah.
But it was a bit longer than that.
Yes.
Did you see like other ships? How were you rescued?
Oh, we headed out, and then the first day, the first morning, we already get spots out, from the government, and
So they saw you.
Yeah, so they chasing us. They gunned. They shot at us, and we hear the captains like, okay, we going to ride out,
You can just drive.
And they did. So they did. They trying to ride out. But guys, when we're talking about the boat. It's not something like fancy, like
it's a wooden small thingy.
And like we don't even have enough seat like this. Could be 4 people from Jade to me.
Yeah.
And
they're all squished together like sardines.
Yes.
And so he just kind of outran the authorities, and you didn't get caught.
And then we was heading to Thailand, but then we get lost. We end up Indonesia instead.
Oh, so you're heading forward to Thailand. You're thinking that you're going to Thailand.
Yes. That was they heading to. There was plane. That was heading to Thailand. Yes, but then when we get chased and gunned.
So you lost that direction.
Lost that direction, and after that, by the 3rd day, we don't know where we at on the water.
Wow.
Seriously, out there. It's a big, huge ocean.
Yeah, and you were saying you didn't even know how big the ocean was. You didn't know what big was.
Until we got on the water.
Yeah, you feel like a little ant, right?
Yeah, we feel like just like a dot.
There's no horizon
on the water.
anywhere.
Yes.
Right, in all directions.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy. For us, our family, our boat weren't detected. It wasn't detected. We thought it might be because there was another boat that came out with us.
Yes.
And we thought, well, maybe they're spies or whatever. And then we
Yes.
just kept going. We all both kept going. And then after a while, like, well, if they're, you know, the authorities, they wouldn't go this far.
Yes.
And so we popped our head out and they popped their heads out and we're like, oh, they're the same as us. But our motor died, so we didn't even have a direction. So we just floated.
Yes.
Yeah.
The same like, you know, our story, like when we get gunshot and then, you know, so we ride out and the next thing we know that we're not in Thailand, we're somewhere in the middle of the ocean. So there we go. The motor was broke down.
The motor broke down too, right?
Yeah, so, you know, the captains and the guys on the boat trying to fix it.
Yeah.
But somehow it's just on and off, you know, and the next thing we know that, you know.
So how old was your brother at that time?
My brother was about 11-ish, like 12 years old.
So was he just absolutely frightened?
Oh yes, and yes, we just said that, you know, when we trying to escape, and then he said, "Tweet, where are we going?" And he said, like, we going to America, you know. And so why?
Like, where are we going?
Why is America? Why you not allow us to talk? You know.
So the whole escape, he was like, "Yeah, I'm just going to escape." He felt the urgency, but he really didn't know what's happening, right?
Yes.
And then when he was able to speak again, he was like, "Where are we going?"
But we packed, you know, like we just trying to pack some food with us, and I could remember my parents give us some money, and we bought like 10 big like hoagies of French bread, and you know, just between me and my brother, and I was hoping that will be survive for us. But actually, when they first start out and the water is just so rough, and so the water is getting to the boat because you know the boat is so tiny and the water is almost up to the boat, you know. So
you were sitting in water.
Yeah.
And so your bread is all soggy.
So the first minute that, you know, when the boat is trying to, you know, leaving, their water get in already. And I said, okay, my bread is already soaking wet, so there's nothing to eat.
And it's funny because in that panic, we don't think clearly. Like we don't know how long it's going to take. We just need to get out.
Yes.
Right. And so there's so much that we could have done, but we didn't know to do. So with my mum, she had really dried rice cake. She had like bantek or something like that. You know, something that it can preserve. And she had a few things that if you only eat a little bit, it's pretty filling. But still, you know, it ran out really quickly, and we were sick and throwing up anyways.
Yes.
So, you know, anyways, well, fast forward. How about, how long did it take you to be rescued?
5 days. 5 days. Yes. 5 days on the water, like.
So were you rescued?
No water, no food.
By another ship? Or,
yes, we was, I could remember like, you know, when our boat get lost and we just on the water and we look to the right, it must be a star or some light out there, and we thought that must be, you know, the shore is close enough, and we make a right turn, we see the left, some light, and we ride to the left, and the next thing we know, we just don't know where we're on the ocean, and the motor is broken down, and that's it, you know, like 5 days on the water, and then and we spot out some light, and we thought that, you know, that would be our hope, and so yes, soon enough, so we get close enough. And then they said, no, we're not going to rescue you. So we're going to wheel down, you know, all the fruit and all the things that you guys need. And then you can go on your way, you know. And all the guys was panicked, and they said, okay, rescue us or we're going to die from here, you know. And the guys start to trying to jump out from the boat, you know, just to get
and
onto
swim over
the
ship. It was like a cargo ship, or was it an oil ship?
I believe it's the oil rig because and I was so sick, and I remember I lay at the bottom of this boat. Then I look up and all I can see is Panama. That's
yeah,
the
Panama's
word
just a
on.
big ship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then, so you've got people from your boat jumping off into the water, trying to swim into the.
Yes,
Because
but
they said they're going to give you some food.
yes.
Yeah, but they're not going to
They're
save
not,
you,
mm-mm.
and they're like, no, don't.
Yeah, they said go, you know, that way you will be heading to Thailand. And we said no, either you guys rescue us or we're going to die here, because we have a lot of women and children, and so they bring out the women and children. But at first, you know, when we see the light, and my fear is because I heard about pirates, you know, and you know how the boat has the pointing like this, and I trying to wrap my brother, you know, just to get to that point, and I was, you know.
So you're talking about the head of the boat, the pointed point of the boat.
Because I was thinking, if we run into pirates, you know, they kill or they do whatever to people, and so me and my brother will be the last one, and so I'm trying to crawl in that spot, you know.
Yeah. So you want to sit in that little nook at the end of the boat just to hide here, so something happened to other people first, and then they'll get to you last.
Yes, I'll be the last, you know, and then I get all the oil, you know, I put on my face, and so when I get rescued, when I get when I can look myself in the mirror, you know, my face is all like a clown, you know.
So you didn't even see what you looked like at that time.
You know, and I have the Vietnamese silk outfit, you know, which is just like the water,
right?
yes, and like we
the
all
pajamas
soak in
that they wear.
wet.
Everyone wears that day and night. So that's awesome. So there's this boat, and you had people jumping off it. Did they make it to the boat, or did people just kind of scoop them up again?
Some of the guys said no, and then the captains on the big ship, they said no, if you guys get panic, you know. And for me, I don't know how to swim, and at that moment I just prayed so hard, and I said, God, just help us somehow, because this guy, if they jump off, they get us all drowned, you know. Because all the captains on the big ship, they said no, don't do that, because our boat, we're trying to get close to them, and somehow the wave is really,
because they're a big boat.
And somehow dangerous. The wave is very strong, you know, and we could be tipped over because you know, our boat could hold like tiny. 30 to 40 people, but now we have 70 people. Like it's a double
the capacity.
Crowd.
So eventually they decided, yes, they're going to rescue you.
Yes, and so like they trying to calm the guys, you know, all the strong single guys. They, you know, they was trying to take their risk and swimming over the ship, you know. But here women and children scream out and yell out, and so the captains, you know, melt his heart or their heart, I believe, you know, and so they decided to rescue us, you know. So
so what I learned is sometimes they're not allowed to, unless there was an emergency, because they still have to do their business. These people are hired to do a job. You know, they don't own the boat, and so you know, it's none of their business to be distracted. Right?
And so that why they have to radar, like, you know, to their boss, or you know, somewhere to the UN or things like that, that should we rescue these people.
It's not like they're heartless, it's just they can't sometimes.
But at that moment, we just like you know, like a dying person grab the floating stuff, you
as
know,
much as you can.
We just trying to make it quick so that we can get up there to survive. But actually, they have to do their job, you know, before they can have permission to rescue us.
So I heard there's a guy in Australia, his name is Ando, he talks about they can't rescue you unless you are, you know, drowning or in some situation. So they got some soldiers and just poked holes in their boats, and then now they can rescue these people. So it was just kind of funny.
Because you know, we're just like a dot in the ocean, and if we can, if we see them, that was the miracle. Like rescue us right now. You know, there's no way we can go on any more longer.
So my dad had the experience where the first boat he saw, I mean, he ran out of supplies because he waited too long while people tried to get onto his boat. And then when they ended up leaving Vietnam, they used up their supplies because they were sitting in the water for so long. But yeah, when they ran out, they saw a fishing boat, and they waved to the fishing boat, and of course they were Thai pirates.
Yes.
And so they shot, they pointed guns and stuff at them, but somehow through the miracles, they spared them. They robbed them, but they spared them of their life, and they didn't harm their women like they wanted to. The captain was awesome. He was like, no, not today. But it's funny because they came and these people were robbed now, and so they see right after that, they're like, okay, now we're robbed, we don't have stuff.
Yes. But it's not only they rob only, but they steal and they kill.
Yeah, that's right.
They kill people for real.
Yeah. So he was lucky, but he said, after that, they weren't that excited to meet other people.
Yes.
But then the day after, he saw ships go by, and he waved, and they tried to get their attention, but their ships just kept on going by.
Yes.
And then at first he's like, don't they care? Don't they love us? Where's the humanity? We're escaping here. But the third boat that came, they were waving and waving, and they had the same dilemma. Like they really want to, but they can't. But the lady that came up and spoke to them, she spoke English. So it was the wife of the captain on that day that begged him to save these people.
Yes.
So they must have seen, people before, but his boat happened to be the one that they chose to help.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But when we are in that situation, this is a real, very, very, very dangerous escape. It's not like we get on a fancy boat and get across the ocean. It's not kind of like cruise boat or anything. This is wooden boat, like I said.
It'll fall apart easily.
We just compact, from J to me.
It's twice its capacity right now with the people in the air. Yeah.
And the wooden boat, it's just only for the fishermen in the
And you already know that the dead bodies have come back to Vietnam, lots of stories and stuff. You already know how bad it is.
And my husband now is just my friend back then. He escaped before me like 3 years. He just keep writing home. He said, "Tweet, don't go. It's too dangerous. You risk your life out there, and the pirates are real. They
Ruthless,
They're very awful. They could kill you, or they rape women and all that. And
they don't spare children either. So.
When we were in the refugee camp, my roommate, not exactly roommate, but she just lived across from my barrack. Yeah, she had four daughters, and so it's 5, and her husband got killed. And when they take her away with them, the pirates. We're talking about pirates when we meet on the ocean, and then she looked down, onto her boat. Like she saw all 4 her girls there was crying out, and she was the last woman that they take her with them and they take off, But so she was begging them, and her husband jumped in. They kill her husband like instantly. And so her husband, they throw her husband down to the water right there in front of her. And so they take her away. But then at last moment, when they took off, their boat was about to leave, and her children, was crying and begging. And guess what? She made a big movement. She just jumped. She just jumped from their pirate's boat and back to her boat, And that's how she survived.
So she kind of flew from that boat because they were going to kidnap her.
Yes.
Right? And so her kids were crying for her.
Yes. But they do, I don't know.
They do all sorts of awful things.
Actually, she got, got raped in front of people and stuff, but at that moment she said no, now or never, because they are going to take, she's a pretty woman, that's all. And so that's why they said, they take her, but she said she make up her mind, if now or never, if she doesn't jump, out from their boat right now, they'll get her and you know, her 4 children. 4
Yeah.
girls, like
Yeah.
from the age like
Yeah.
6, 7, down to 2 years old. So
Yeah.
just be like
Little-
one of
little
you,
kids,
like
yeah.
you back then, just
Yeah,
only
one of
2
me.
years old.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So our journey was we had the 2 boats, right? And our boat, the motor stopped, but the other boat went ahead and then met the pirates. And then the kids were killed, and then the women were raped, and they were robbed and all that.
Yes.
So it took us about 9 days. It was a longer journey, and we ran out of food and everything.
Yes.
But we arrived at the oil rig, and the other boat arrived at the oil rig at the same time. So it was like,
Yes.
you know, we ended up in the same place anyways.
Yes.
But it felt like God kind of took us on this journey, and
Yes.
they went straight towards pirates.
Yes.
And so, you know, we feel that pain too. But you know, when you're rescued, they do paperwork, and they give you numbers, and you're officially a refugee. So
Yes.
they catalogue you, and then you get sent to a camp. And so there's plenty of camps around that area. We have in Singapore, we have
So which camp you end up?
in Malaysia.
Oh, Malaysia.
Yeah,
That's,
so
yes.
the Kuala Lumpur, Malaysian, but they have camps in the Philippines, as
I
well,
end up
and
in
Hong Kong.
Indonesia.
In Indonesia.
Yes.
So they had a few already set up, but at the time when it was starting out, in the late 70s and early 80s, they didn't have proper camps. They just had islands. They just
Yes.
go, let's dump these people on here, we'll figure
Yes.
this one out.
Yes.
So at that time, when I got to the camp, they didn't have proper barracks.
No.
No, we had to kind of set up our own little...
Our tent.
It wasn't even a
tent.
tent at that time. Mum said we just had to use sticks and things to kind of set up home. But we were under a coconut tree, and she's always afraid that a coconut will fall on our heads and kill us. It's like another thing to worry about, you know.
Yes.
But yeah, eventually they started having barracks. But so by the time that you had gone to the camp, they had some barracks, right? They had places to...
Yes, we were blessed that, you know, overall, I heard that Thailand camp, they don't have the barracks either. Malaysia, which is my husband now, you know, my friend back then, you know, and they don't have barracks, you know, and I was blessed that, you know, we head into Thailand, but we end up Indonesia. So Indonesia, back then, you know, during that time, they closed in the camp,
Oh,
you know, and
so
that's
towards
why.
the end.
Yeah, toward the end, you know, because the camp supposed to close on March 17, 1989, but we got rescued about like a week before that. And so toward the end, you know, the refugee camp is not many people, and so we have the space for the barracks.
So you didn't have the crowding that they had. You were towards the end when they were taking more.
In about 2,000 people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's pretty good. You know.
2,000
Yeah.
people.
So you had some space and stuff.
And so we were
'cause
blessed.
They were transferring it to from political refugees to economic refugees.
Yes.
So they're still labelled as you know, the political refugees, people that are escaping the political persecutions.
Yes.
Because after that, all the people that are escaping, they're doing it for economic reasons.
Yes.
So they were closing their gates. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yes.
So when you arrived in the refugee camp, how long did you stay there for?
I would stay there for 2 years. For first, we end up Indonesia camp, refugee camp, and then they move us to Singapore camp, and then the last one is Philippines. Yeah, Batam camp. Yes. So I lived like under 2 years in 3 countries and 3 refugee camps. Me and my brother.
So they kept moving you around.
Yes.
You know why?
Yes. No, because we wait for the paperwork. That is the process of it. Some people could be 3 months, could be a year, could be 2 years, and some of them end up stay there like 15 years, you know, because and especially
I remember
me and my brother don't have family in America, so we come through my dad as working with American before.
So you have to have some sort of connection. So what Thuy's saying about paperwork is you have to find a country that is willing to sponsor you. You have to have a reason. So you have to kind of say you've got a connection to that country somehow. So for Thuy, her dad worked for the US government. So she's using that as a claim to to that country.
So in order for me to get to America.
Just to get somebody to sponsor her from the States, or there's a reason for them to sponsor her. But there's countries like, we do have England, and we have Australia, we have Canada, we have Italy and France too, and they take people to, and sometimes if you have a relative or a friend there that's happy and willing to sponsor you, which means they're saying that they will take care of you when you come to the country, then
they have to sign a document,
sign documents to prove that they have the funds to take care of you, things like that.
I almost end up in Canada because during that time, I wait for my dad paperwork come through, and then also in the meantime we want to leave the refugee camp as soon as possible.
Yeah, so there's that conflict that you want to get out of here, but then also do we stick with the original plan? And there's people that in the camp that they kind of fudge the relationships a little bit and say, oh, you become my sister, you pretend to be my sister so you can come. Because when people who don't have any links to any countries at all, what happens is sometimes they end up being there for 15 years. So I had a girl when I was in high school, I was 15, 16, and she came to my high school, and she's Vietnamese, so I thought, welcome, la 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 la, speaking in English to her. She didn't understand a thing, so I started to speak Vietnamese to her, and I asked her, how did you come here, when did you come? And she said, I just arrived in Australia just recently, a few months ago. And I'm like, oh, well, that explains why she doesn't speak English. But then I said, well, where were you before? And she was in the refugee camp for most of her life. She was a baby when she left, and then she's now 15, 16, and she caught TB, and she, her whole family got sick, and no one was sponsoring them, and they just stayed there. And I felt so grateful because all this time I was growing up in Australia, and I had all the blessings, of this country. When this girl's stuck there, she's got no one to just help her out and sponsor. So that's a.
So I end up, I almost go to Canada, but my father sent the paperwork, and so I got adopted through the Catholic charity. So that's why.
So that's awesome.
So I end up in Pennsylvania.
So where was your dad at that time?
My dad back still my whole family in Vietnam. Yeah, just
right.
only me and
But your
my
dad did have some documentation that he served with the US government, so he had some connection there.
Yes,
Yeah.
he served in military, American military.
2 years in the refugee camp. So for me, I was 2 years in the refugee camp too. But we did have finally a connection with my dad. So in Australia. So when you left, they flew you to the US, right?
Yes.
Where did you end up here?
I end up in Pennsylvania. Swarthmore, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Through the
Catholic charity. Yes.
And what happened? What's the first thing?
Yes. Back then it's a little bit more detailed. Like my husband now was my friend back then. He escaped before me, like 3 years. And so he ended up in through the Catholic charity too. But in his case, he has nobody sponsor. And so, but he was blessed that the Catholic charity, take a whole bunch of people, And so he ended up in Pennsylvania. And back then he spoke broken English, And in the weekend, the first thing that he said, no, God rescue me. Now I'm come to Pennsylvania. I kissed the American ground. The first thing I have to find a church. I have to go to church first, And then he ride a bike, and actually we are Catholic, but he ended up in one of those Baptist church because he saw the cross on top of the church. He said, as long as it's church, I have to come and thank God first. That's the first thing. And then there was an older couple in that church. They look at the way he worshiped, and then they realized, they said, no, this young guy they believe that this is not his religion, his church, you know. So
yeah, you're
but
doing it
they,
differently to us.
yeah, but they make friends with him, so
Yes.
they spot him out. So they,
Yeah.
in their heart, they really want to reach out and
Yeah.
help. Sam is my husband, you know, and
Yeah.
like said no, you. And then they was asking, and then they was realized that Sam is Catholic. So they brought Sam to the Catholic church, you know, and you know, in his heart he said God already helped him this far, so he has to do the first thing he go to church, and the next thing that he has to do something to pay back, you know, to thank God, whatever. And then he volunteered at the Catholic church without charge. You know, he said, Father, I can clean the floor, mop the floor, cut the grass, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And then later on, that's how he asked that priest to sponsor for
that's
me
how
and my
you ended
brother.
up being there.
There you go. And
Yep.
so we both at the same
So
area.
he knew of you, and he knew that you were
Yes,
escaping and stuff.
he was asking the priest, my friend and her daughter come along, can you sponsor for them?
Yeah.
And the priest said, how? And Sam said, okay, you have to go through the Catholic charity. And so that's how I end up in Pennsylvania, through the Catholic
So it's
charity.
amazing how things all fall into place like that, isn't it?
After that,
Yeah.
my brother, you know, stayed there at that Catholic school.
Yeah.
You know, from the 6th grade up
So
to
he
high
got
school.
to have that education.
Yes, and
Yeah.
for me, I didn't have that chance, so I just start my life and
Start
working
working.
3 jobs.
Yeah, that's how it is, right?
3
Yeah,
jobs.
and then now you own your business, and
Yes,
you're
yeah.
married, and you've got 2
No.
beautiful children.
Thanks God that me and my husband, you know, we married after 4 years when we met each other back in Pennsylvania. And now we have 2 beautiful daughters. One will be going to be 19 and one
College.
is 16, college, first year college.
Yeah.
And we own our business for 20 years.
Yeah.
So thanks God, you know, but it's a long story now. I look back at, you know, how is God's hands in all of this, you know. We don't realize and we don't know it until now.
Right.
We look back.
So we have a lot to share with you guys because we're both Christians and we both see the hand of God. And we want, I guess our message to people is life happens to us, but we can see God's love for us, and you know, through our story, perhaps you can find strength and lessons for your life too.
Yes.
So it's fantastic. So for my family, my dad had a guy on the boat that couldn't pay the fare, but he promised that if you know, we ended up somewhere, his uncle in Australia would sponsor him, and my dad and his brother too.
Yes.
So that was better than the fare, right?
Yes.
And so they ended up in the Singapore refugee camp, and the uncle was good to his words, and he sponsored these guys too. And then Dad ended up in Australia. He wrote home, and we, you know, were able to know where he was. And then when Mum took off and ended up in the camp, we knew that we had to go to Australia. But it was tempting. There's a lot of things that are tempting that they say, hey, you can get out of here quickly if you follow this guy and that guy to Canada and to the US or whatever. And you know, I had to keep my mum focused on what we want to do. She got discouraged a lot. But anyways, we did come to Australia and started life. For me, I was blessed because I was, you know, 4 and a half, and I was able to start school from the beginning. And you know.
For me, on the other hand, I didn't have that chance, so.
No, and that's and all our journeys are different. So she will remember a lot of details that I don't. But I think with the, you know, the message is to give back. You know, that's how I was taught when I grew up. My parents said, look, this is a fantastic opportunity for you. You need to give back. You need to give back and find a way to give back to the world. And I think that set the groundwork for me to find God and to see the hand of God and recognize blessings, and then turn around and want to bless other people too. So,
you know, and it's just so amazing. It's now I look at this, you know, how do I meet Jade? I don't know, but I just
the universe.
I believe that God hands in it, and like I didn't expect it, like all of this, but it's happening, you know. And my friends and everyone was encouraged me to do something like this, documentation just for my children,
Right.
you know, to get to know about me, because back then I been you know, I trying to write my journal, but I keep crying, and then my daughter back then just keep, Mom, why every time you holding on that book you write and you start to cry, you know, and all I can say like one of this day
we'll be
you
crying
understand.
a lot. I had to hold in a lot of tears today, but we'll be crying a lot as we talk about the details. So stay tuned to the next video. We'll be going through our journey a little bit at a time. But so today, hopefully, you see the overview, the big picture of how we ended up to where we ended up. Okay, but we'll go back to Vietnam where the journey begins, and then we'll take it from there. So I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye bye for now.